was as good at love as I am at working. I wish I didn't leave people behind so often.
Do you ever feel like you're fighting battles that you didn't even choose? Well, there's a movie that mirrors what it's like to confront that invisible weight that we all carry, the unspoken pain passed down from our mothers. But in the photograph, May's journey reveals to us that these battles are not just burdens. They're the doorway to reclaiming the love and healing we've all been searching for. So let's check out this movie with a message. So on the surface, the photograph is a romantic drama where the main character, May, played by Issa Rae, makes a connection with Michael, played by Lakeith Stanfield. But beneath this love story lies something deeper, a sneaky exploration of how the wounds we inherit shape our lives. So when May discovers letters and a photograph left to her by her late mother, Christina, she starts to uncover why their relationship was so emotionally distant. Somehow, this film manages to tell their stories side by side and still capture the weight of unspoken pain and misconnections Christina encountered and how they affect May's life today, which is a phenomenon that Bethany Webster calls the mother wound. Which, if you've been here for a little bit, you know I talked about in my Tangled video. But this isn't just a story about how May finds love. It's a mirror, reflecting the way that you and I might struggle with inherited emotional patterns without realizing. And the key to breaking free begins with awareness. You ready? So, do you feel like you find yourself making choices that feel more like a reaction than a decision? Or do you have a tendency to play it safe because it doesn't feel quite right to go after what you want? Well, you're not alone. That's actually the mother wound in action. It lurks in the background, unnoticed and invisible, silently sabotaging you until you take a closer look. In the movie The Photograph, Christina's emotional distance didn't just show up one day. It was a pattern that was passed down, a wound she inherited and carried with her. In one pivotal scene where Christina's getting ready to go out with her friends and her boyfriend, her mother tells her, if you're going to go out, you might as well start looking for your own place. You can't stay here. It's a short clip in the film, and on the surface may seem like a really small moment. But it was actually extremely loaded because it gives us a glimpse into the core forming of Christina's limiting belief that love and independence cannot coexist. And unfortunately for Christina, this unchecked limiting belief became a shadow that shaped the way she lived her life and how she loved. And it was the source of the pain that caused her to build up walls around herself. In her case, struggling with relationship after relationship all the way up until the day she passed. And it's this very belief that gets passed down to May. But where it gets interesting is that this wound in May manifests a little bit differently. And this is the essence of the personal mother wound and how it goes undetected. And because this wound goes undetected, we need to zero in on Christina's core belief. I have to choose between love and independence. Okay, because it isn't just a casual thought. It becomes an active choice, the foundation for how she navigates the world. And because of that, in the film, Christina makes a choice that reflects the belief that she will carry through the rest of her life. She pushes away Isaac, her teenage love, so she can pursue her dreams of photography and move to New York. And at first, this seems like a necessary sacrifice, a decision to keep herself from getting too attached or becoming too vulnerable. She has a vision for her future, and because of that, she believes that she can't be emotionally tied down. And she's successful. She finds success in New York. She becomes the independent woman she wanted to be. But when her mother passes, she's forced to return home.
I think she asked me to leave because she knew she was sick. She didn't want me to see her weak.
And that's when the real cost of the choice hits her. Isaac's married now, but she's carrying his child. Anyways, it's a devastating moment for her, but not just because she has to deal with the pain of him moving on, but because she has to deal with the pain that's been lying beneath the surface this whole time. She's forced to confront a wound she didn't even know she was carrying in full force. Hear me when I say this, okay? Her choice in this movie to choose sacrificing love for independence shows us the destructive nature of standing in wounds we were only supposed to walk through. And unfortunately, Christina's wounds and beliefs don't just affect her romantic relationships, it haunts her relationships with her family, especially May. And unfortunately, that cycle of emotional detachment and the walls she built stay alive through her relationship with her daughter.
I was stumbling through my own life trying not to break apart. I wish I had put as much courage into being your mother as I was able to put in my work.
Christina's belief that love threatens her independence builds a wall between her and her daughter, sending May a silent message that love requires sacrificing oneself, and vulnerability isn't safe. When May meets Michael, we find out that she just left her ex after he proposed, which they brush past, and it sounds just like a plot point to everyone else. But since what we know about what Bethany Webster says about limiting beliefs being passed down, we actually got the real scoop. And we can actually see that May's been wrestling with a mother wound that's been rippling through generations. For Christina, that message from her mother was painful but clear. Being a woman meant being entirely self-sufficient. Her mother telling her to move out and make her own way the moment she starts to gain a bit of independence cemented that belief that told her love and independence cannot coexist, because she couldn't even have both in the relationship with her own mother. And because of that silent message from the person who gave her life, this belief became a survival mechanism, sacrificing love and connection repeatedly and using emotional detachment as a shield. I think there's even a scene where May mentions that her mom didn't come to the airport because she had a meeting, but learns from her stepdad later that it was because her mother couldn't deal with the emotional weight of saying goodbye. And May inherits this pattern. Her fear of losing herself in love and leaving before getting too vulnerable is the legacy of her mother's survival mechanism. Healing the personal mother wound requires a big shift, and the photograph captures it beautifully in a conversation with May and her father, right after she learns about Isaac. He says, at some point, you have to realize she was just a woman with flaws. This moment is crucial, because the shift you need to start healing from your mother wound requires you taking the image of your mother and all her flaws and separating it from the divine feminine archetype. After this conversation with her dad, May allows herself to begin to see Christina differently, not as the distant but successful parent who kind of let her down, but as a woman with her own wounds around intimacy, who really was just doing the best she could. But at the same time, May has to reconnect with the nurturing, intuitive, feminine energy inside of her. In the movie, May's healing arc plays out in her little moments with Michael, which they were kind of before their time, okay? Drake and Kendrick. But early on, May makes jokes about how listening to Kendrick makes her feel guilty, like she's not doing enough to create change.
I just feel like everybody can't be a change in the world. Everybody can't do that. It's too ambitious.
Which also is kind of like a subtle nod to the perfectionism and avoidance that comes with the mother wound. But by the end of the film, something shifts, because May sends Michael tickets to a Kendrick concert after she decides that long distance might be worth at least a try. It's a simple act, but it symbolizes her being willing to take on this growth and transformation in her life without letting guilt hold her back. Because before, she was like, it's not practical. As she learns her mother and understands why her mother made the choices the way that she did, she decides by the end of the movie that it's gotta be at least worth taking the risk. And in that moment, she grants herself freedom. It's almost like a first step in letting go of the armor that she's inherited. And she learns that with self-awareness, love and vulnerability don't threaten her independence, they expand it. So what about you? Have you heard of the mother wound before? Have you ever questioned some of the patterns you've inherited? Well, I got a journal prompt for you to help you start. Also, if you'd like more journal prompts and self-care rituals to work through your mother wound further, you can find them over on Patreon, and you get early access to these videos when they come out. Give it a try. There's a 7-day free trial, and the journal prompts for this one are juicy. You can also check out the videos I did on Disney's Tangled if you want to learn more about the mother wound, and click on the blog post if you want the links to Bethany Webster's stuff. Okay, until next time, I'm sending love and healing your way. Bye.